We got VIP seating right here up front. Splash zone. It's like SeaWorld. All right, everybody ready to get started? I put a bunch of politicians in the front of the room. What was I thinking? Trying to get order up here. We have a microphone set up. Can everybody hear okay? Do we need to use the microphone? Okay, it's ready to go if you feel like we need to use it, but no one has ever told me I need to speak louder. So I'm Chris Hoffman, Executive Director of the Beaches Museum. I am also the 10th mayor in this lineup, but I am the mayor of Jacksonville Beach right now, so I'm really excited to be able to put some of my colleagues over here on the spot today for our panel. I'm just kidding, we're not going to do that. But I want to welcome you guys out. Thank you for choosing to spend your Saturday morning with us. Luckily, it's a little soggy. It's not a good yard work or beach day, so you may as well be in here enjoying some of our more modern history. So if you haven't seen it yet, we are celebrating 100 years of Atlantic Beach with an exhibit down here in our Dickinson Gallery. I know a lot of you already have, and some of you went through there this morning, but a couple other events that are coming up after this one. We have a boardwalk talk that is about the amazing architecture of Northeast Florida, and that is going to be by Wayne Wood. So if you haven't ever heard, he's one of our most popular presenters. He does a great job, and he's going to talk about the Bill Morgan homes and some of the really interesting architecture at the beaches, and especially Atlantic Beach. And then we'll have a boardwalk, and sorry, if you don't already have this postcard, grab that off the desk before you leave. Suitable for hanging on your refrigerator. That'll be June 11th, and then on July 16th, we're going to have a boardwalk talk by Johnny Woodhouse, and he's going to be talking about the names that are familiar to you, but you might not know who's behind them. Jack Russell Park is not named after a breed of dog. That's your teaser. Come to the talk to learn more about that on July 16th. A couple other things that we're going to have going on at the same time. We are going to be hosting a temporary exhibit right here in this space that is done in partnership with the Amelia Right Whale Ambassadors that is all about the right whale. So that's going to be out here. It's our first time hosting a traveling exhibit like that. That's going to open next Saturday. So if you're looking at your calendar for next Saturday at 11, just come back. We're going to be doing this again. And we'll be talking about the right whales, and there's going to be some programming along with that. The reason we're doing that exhibit is because after Memorial Day, we are shutting down the permanent exhibit. We are going to rage room in there, demo the entire thing. We're going to take all the artifacts out first before we rage room, but we're going to demo the entire thing, and we're going to install a brand new exhibit. So this is about 20 years old, and it shows, and most of you probably know that as where we put the bar for our evening events. There's not a bar this morning, but that's where we put the bar, but we will find a new place for the bar, I promise you, if that's a concern. But it's going to be much more interactive. It's going to be things that kids can, we're moving away from do not touch and encouraging, things to touch, technology, a little more interactive accessibility, and just to tell our story of our beaches a little bit better. So we're really excited about that. It's been a real labor of, Susan's probably mad at me that she's not working on the exhibit right now because she's been 24/7 working on that new exhibit. It's going to be something that all of us can be really proud of. So that's what we have coming up. If you don't already know, the bathrooms are that way. And we're going to go ahead and get this event started. We have two of our mayors. Unfortunately, Bob Person let me know yesterday he's not going to be able to come. But we're missing two mayors right now. We're leaving holes for them in case they are able to make it. But our mayors are in order chronologically. You have to guess which direction it goes. Whenever we do a storyteller event like this, we kind of start off with an idea of how it might go, and then it goes however it wants to go. So there's no agenda here, but I'm going to start off with a couple of questions, and then we'll see where it takes us. So, and if there's an opportunity for some interaction with the audience, we will do that too. I think this is a small enough group. If you want to just interject something, if you want to poke fun at anybody, we welcome that. But I will say, and the commitment I made to them is we're not talking politics at this, and we're not going to dig in on any real specific issues. We want to hear about the experience and the things that they have seen in Atlantic Beach during their time. And I have to tell you, again, as someone who is as the mayor of one of our beach communities, to have 10 living mayors still in and around your community is really, I think, super rare. We do not, in Jacksonville Beach, I can count 3. So there's probably a couple more in Neptune Beach, but to have 10 is really
45 years worth.
45 years worth of mayors, which is really truly exceptional. So when we started doing that math, we're like, this is going to be a great storyteller event. So I'm going to ask each of our mayors to get started with their name, when they served, and just a little bit about why you decided to run for mayor. So lead us off, Bill.
Things are better in Atlantic Beach. That's and only 3 in Jacksonville Beach. My name is Bill Galford. I served from, gosh, when did I serve? Let me back up. I ran for commission in 1980 on a dare, and so I got elected. I had a couple of opponents, but it was an intriguing campaign. Anyway, so I served, and Billy Howell, who was the king of Atlantic Beach, as all of you recognize, I decided to not run, and so Bob Persons, who's not here today, and I wish he was because I have a great Bob Persons story, but I'll tell it anyway. I was going to embarrass him badly. But anyway, Billy Howell decided not to run, Bob Persons ran, and then I got elected by my peers because Howell decided to, Howell ran again. Persons only ran for 2 years. Howell ran again and got elected, obviously, and he decided to run for the state legislature, so the charter provided that the commission filled the vacancy, and I got elected mayor. And then I ran. I was mayor for 5 years from 1988 to 1993. And it was an exciting time. I'll tell you about it, a little bit about it. But, I've got some earlier stories from Person. I'll tell you a person's story.
You timed out.
I know. That's why I said I wasn't going to do it now. But anyway, go, Suzanne.
Hi, I'm Suzanne Shaughnessy. I was elected to the City Commission in 1993 and served 4 years, was unopposed for my next term when I got 39 phone calls for people asking me to run for mayor because the person who would happen to be running, friends of ours, was running unopposed. So one night, my husband, we were sitting up in bed talking about things, and he said, you know, in a democracy, people really do need a choice. So even if you run to lose, you're probably doing the right thing. So I ran to lose. It didn't work out, it did not happen that way. I have to say that when you campaign for any office in Atlantic Beach, the greatest thing about it is the people that you meet when you go door to door. I must have made 1,000 new friends, which is a lot for somebody who's a New York City native. I needed to meet lots and lots of people, and I did, and I've loved it ever since. So I was looking for a place. I used to spend my summers in the Hamptons in New York. I was looking for a place that was very much like that area. And when I first moved to Jacksonville, I had a horse, so I moved to Mandarin because that's where all the horse activity was. And when the children came along, I said, that's it, we have to get to the beach. And Atlantic Beach is more like the Hamptons than the Hamptons are now. So, thank you. I have really loved being in office. And once again, the best thing about it is all the people that you meet.
I'll take what Susie said.
Okay, Mayor, I've got a 3-minute clock.
Why you timed out next? My name is Don Wolfson. We didn't move to Atlantic Beach. I served as mayor from 2005 to 2007. But we did not move to Atlantic Beach. We moved to Seminole Beach. And that's part of the story that I would like to share. But when we moved to Seminole Beach, that was part of Jacksonville. And Seminole Beach was from 16th Street to Hannah Park, from Seminole Road to the beach. And that was Jacksonville. And part of my story is 22 years what it took to get to protecting Atlantic Beach. But Bill appointed me on the development board, community development board, shortly after we were annexed. In 1989, he appointed me to, you were elected in '88, I was appointed in '89, and I served in that capacity for 13, 14 years until I was termed out. John Meserve wisely created term limits, and I was termed out, which I was, at that point, I felt that I did enough, and I was able to, enjoy living in Atlantic Beach, and then knock, Desmond Waters, Commissioner Waters, and Mayor Fletcher knocked on my door and told me that we had another serious problem. And, I couldn't turn them down, and I ran for a reason. Karen knows that she's here, I never ran intentionally. I didn't want to, but I was put in a position to run. And to what Susie said, one of the greatest parts of being in office was meeting our citizens. And Desmond took me around. I absolutely loved campaigning. It was fantastic because what we heard and what we learned was critical to what we ended up doing. And so when I served for those 2 years, it was with the intention of serving, offering the citizens a referendum, and once that was offered, to move on. And that's what I did. So it's one of my fondest accomplishments is living in Atlantic Beach. And, being citizens, that we were all fortunate to live together in a wonderful time. Carolyn.
You're here.
Wow, that was very short for you, Dawn. I'm very
I didn't use my 5 minutes, I'll give you one.
So I'm Carolyn Woods, and I think I served from 2013 to 15, but I served Atlantic Beach for 22 years on various boards and committees and campaigns for almost everybody up here, I think. And I think the reason why there's so many of us still alive is because we are the nerve center of the growth explosion. And everybody loves Atlantic Beach, and they want it to be just like that when they get here. And then, of course, you want to make changes. So I think our population is a little fickle, if that's the word I want to use. And we all have great ideas. I mean, look at Atlantic Beach. It's wonderful. Everybody wants to be here, and it's taken the diversity of all of our ideas to get us there. So I love Atlantic Beach.
I'm Mitch Reeves, and I served mayor of Atlantic Beach from 2015 to 2017. And the question was what made you run for mayor, or what made you get involved? And mine's kind of a simple story is I wanted to run for commissioner or councilman, well, ours commissioner. I wish they get them all the same name. But I wanted to run for commissioner, and thank God for our smart wives, because my wife asked me a question. I'll support you if you want to run, if that's what you want to do. But I have one question to ask you. Can you do better than the commissioner that you're going to run against? That was a good question because I didn't know. I wanted to run because I wanted to be a commissioner. And I met with that commissioner, told him I was thinking about running. He said, you should run. Well, I decided I couldn't do a better job than that commissioner, so I didn't run. And I waited a year and wasn't going to get involved, but I was on Mayor Barno appointed me to the police building the new police building. He appointed me to serve on the committee, board review, and I learned a lot on those, and I wanted to give back. And one of the things that I had to make a decision and understand before I even ran was when you run for office, and this is what I wanted to try to do, and one of the reasons I wanted to do, I wanted to help Atlantic Beach because I really do love and learn to love Atlantic Beach, is that you have to accept, as a leader, you have to accept people's not understanding you, don't agree with you, totally against you, or they're for you. So what you have to do is my goal was to do this, is not serve the people that elected me, but serve all the people in Atlantic Beach. what I wanted to do, and that's why I ran. I wanted to do that. And some places you're successful, sometimes you're not. But that's why I wanted to run, is give back. I really wanted to serve on the community development board, but I'm not that smart. Those people have to be very smart and understand those. It's not an easy board to serve on. And
That's true.
the other thing, I just want to make a comment that Mayor Hoffman made is it's amazing that we have 10 mayors still alive, but remember that the reason we have 10 still alive sitting up here is we don't serve 4 years, we serve 2. So the numbers would add up. And what honored me, and I'll be real quick with this, what honored me was several years ago, it was on the ballot of extending, it was on the charter review this year, talks about it, extending the mayor's term to 4 years. And it amazed me that every one of these mayors, and Bob, and also, everybody else, I'm not excluding you because you were mayor. And,
Yeah, but I don't think I was in that group.
no, you weren't, but I wasn't gonna name that, but you did. But all fairness, I wasn't gonna name any, but there was 8, even though there was 9 mayors. And I believe that Mayor Glasser did the right thing. She was mayor, just stayed neutral out of it. But what excited me about that was all 8 mayors, and all of us really didn't get along very well sometimes, but all of us showed up for a photo op. All of us supported and went to fight against the 4-year. And I thought that was kind of neat, because what we all had in common that we didn't realize we had in common is that the 2-year mayor allows the citizens to make a change every 2 years, because 3 votes control the commission. So therefore, you got to vote 3 new people every 2 years. So it is a wonderful thing, and many of us only serve 2 years, and some serve more. We're, fortunate. But I love it. I'll never forget it. It's an experience that I will never, ever forget.
Okay, it's my turn. Hi, I'm Ellen Glasser. I was the mayor from 1977 to 1982. No, sorry, I get my decades wrong. 2017. Help me out, guys. Showing my age. Thank you, Chris, Beaches Museum, for doing this. It's really a lot of fun. So thanks for bringing all of that up. I won't add anything to that. You all must love campaigning you have 1 year to serve, and then the next year you're campaigning again. You must really love campaigning to want to serve, to have a 2-year term. But it's tough to carry out an agenda in 2 years. Some of the things that I started are just now happening. So here's my story. I come from a law enforcement background, public service background, moved here from Seattle, and could not figure out Jacksonville at all, and then found Atlantic Beach, loved it, decided this is where I wanted to raise my family, my 4 children, and they may not live here now, but they all say their hometown was Atlantic Beach. So one of my real goals was to maintain that small town feel that has drawn us all to Atlantic Beach. So why did I run? I didn't run for a commission seat. I didn't serve as a commissioner, but I had served on a couple of citizen committees, the Community Development Board, the Code Enforcement Board, and I'd gone to city meetings for a number of years. I came from a apolitical background, if you can believe that. I was a career FBI agent, and the only position I was interested in was something in nonpartisan government. So I thought I could bring my organizational skills, my people skills, my ability to look at facts, make decisions to the mayor's office, and I thought Mitch needed an opponent. So, because for reasons that have already been stated. I mean, I think it's good to have a choice. So that's why I ran. The highest honor of my life was to be the mayor in Atlantic Beach. You're never going to win everybody over. That part was tough for me. The social media aspects were tough for me because people pick a side and then they stay with that side no matter what you do. I did try to serve all of Atlantic Beach, put a focus on health and well-being, citizen welfare, whether that's law enforcement or whether that was COVID. I was the mayor for the longest period of emergency in Atlantic Beach ever, and woke up every day with the idea of let me do no harm as an elected official. So, you know, in 3 years, 3.5 years out of the office, I'm loving being a grandma, and I have been known in my family as Mayma since 2017. That's Mayor Mom, and I consider the relationships that I formed with these folks and with all the residents to be just the highest point of my service. So, thank you.
So I'm the caboose. So I'm the current mayor, serving in my 4th year. I feel like I must be tripping along into this 2nd term, which isn't approved by my the original 5 speakers here. But this is one of those times, Ellen, where you and I actually agree, because
We're gonna look more than you
yeah,
think.
yeah. Well, so out of fairness to that, I just share with you why I ran for mayor. Do we have another one? Okay. Why I ran for mayor is a little over 4 years ago, I went to see Ellen because I thought that the commission seat in my district was opening up, and my wife wanted me to check into that because somebody asked her to run for commissioner. So I went to see Ellen, and she told me all about it. She said you should consider running, and I said, well, I think I told you that I was checking for Leah. But then on the way out the door, Mayor Glasser said that she was not planning to run again. So I went home and told my wife that Mayor Glasser is not running again, and she turned to me and said, you need to run for mayor. And just as quick, I turned back to her and I said, okay. And she was like, how can you make such a quick decision? And I told her my story from when my family moved to the beach. I was just so happy. We moved from the west side of Jacksonville. Some of you know that was the best side. Not so. The beaches was the best side. So we moved to the beach in 1968. My mother was an artist and a teacher, and she painted all the things around the beaches and so on. I remember one day telling Mom that one day I was going to be the mayor of the beach. And she painted a picture of the Del Grange back when it still had a sign on it that said City Hall. And I kept that picture till this day, and it always reminded me of just that moment in time with your parent, with my mama. And I said, I'm going to be mayor of the beach. Now, of course, I wasn't thinking. I was 12. I'm like, the beach is one beach, right? No, I was in Neptune Beach at the time. I ended up being mayor of Atlantic Beach. That's my story.
By the way, Bill built that building, you know that.
Right. He did. Okay, questions from,
Well, let's see what the host wants to.
Yeah.
For my,
So-
go ahead.
How did you
I was
want to
just
go?
gonna ask you.
Yeah,
the
sorry, I
host
got
has some
distracted.
Format to follow.
Yeah, we have some visitors here. So, okay, my next question, and I will say, we have done a panel, when we did our women's history exhibit in 2021. We had all of the women mayors come together and do a panel, and we had 3 from Atlantic Beach at the time, 2 from Neptune Beach, although they're up to 3 now, and then me, the newly minted at the time first female mayor of Jacksonville Beach. So we've heard a little bit from the 3 women up here, but one of the things that I want, and Suzanne was the first female mayor in Northeast Florida, so that was a really huge accomplishment, and we were so lucky to have her
What
on.
did I do?
So we didn't even realize how significant that was. But one thing Suzanne shared was that at the time, you could only have 5 yard signs.
True.
Total. And she gave one to us, so we have it upstairs in our collection, but I want you to talk a little bit about that and how you guys had to kind of scramble around with these signs, allocating them. And then I want each of you just to share kind of what it was like to campaign, and if you have a funny story or anything like that, but just a little bit about the actual process of campaigning in Atlantic Beach. But we'll start with Suzanne and work down the row, and we'll finish up with you, give you time to come up with a good story.
Oh, hell, I've got 5 good stories.
You wanna go first? Go first.
No, that's okay, ladies first.
At the time that I ran, it's the God's honest truth, you were allowed 5 yard signs. My opponent for my commission seat made all of his own signs by hand. That's how much of a, community type thing it was. So, because you were only allowed 5, you really had to be judicious about where you put them. So there were people who became known for having the best yard sign location. There was one on Seminole Road, there was one at the end of, Beach Ave. There was another one, there was one off Mayport Road, so that you got that. And then the other 2, I think, were further down Seminole Road, because there was a lot, that was becoming a main thoroughfare. But this leads me to something I'd like to ask Donnie Wolfson. What part of Atlantic Beach was called Manhattan Beach at one time?
Manhattan?
The Manhattan Beach is now, it's Hannah Park.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Hannah Park.
Yeah.
Hannah Park, okay, thank you. So, you didn't spend a fortune on yard signs, that's for sure. Once they opened it up, it became a major expense. But it was a real experience when everybody was trying to get their sign in the same location. And the first guy there got it.
Okay, obviously the race is supposedly nonpartisan, okay?
Yeah.
And that's really the beauty of what our community is all about, all right? It's not supposed to be partisan politics. So when Lyman and Desmond asked me to run, I'm trying to figure out what to do. Thank goodness Desmond knew a lot more than I did, so they told me, get a campaign manager, get a treasurer, and now I'm running against the mayor pro tem, Rick Beaver, and then this woman moved to Atlantic Beach from Jacksonville, pitched her tent here for 12 months, and she was being supported by PAC, and I'm thinking, what is this all about? I just think I'm running, so I go over to say, anybody know where this group should know where Section H is? No?
Oh, I know.
Well, wait, not this group. Section H is on the west side of Atlantic Beach. That's what it was known as. Don't ask me why. I'd ask Mayor Howell, he would know, but I don't know. So I go over to Section H, and they felt so underserved. They thought there was no representation because out of the 5 commissioners, the mayor and 4 commissioners, 4 of them live within 2 blocks of each other. And I'm thinking, oh my God, that doesn't make sense to me. So we talked, and that's how it evolved into district representation because they felt so underserved. So what happened is they really started turning out for the election because they felt, hey, we have somebody that will listen to us. And I just remember Desmond kept telling me, you need to be hydrated. I'm not walking around with a bottle. He's walking around with this gallon jug of water, and I'm just profusely perspiring, and I'm getting worn out, and he keeps saying, drink more water, drink more water, drink more. And so I drank my way into
It's good. I have the story.
We're going down the road. Yeah, you're fine.
Oh, she could have my turn. I'm not a good storyteller. I'm not the traditional politician.
Just tell us a little bit what it was like for you
Well,
to campaign.
every door that you knock on, you are greeted by a bark.
Yes.
And just walking up to people's front doors, just the love that they showed and the pride in their homes. And you feel a real responsibility to do good by all of those people. And I just think walking the community was just the best thing any politician can do. That's my story.
Great.
Well, I'll start off with this. The topic actually started off about campaign signs, 5 campaign signs. And I actually met with our campaign manager and the committee that worked with me to elect, and I pleaded with them got to. It's name recognition. You gotta do that. And I just felt that political signs in people's personal yards voting is the only private thing that we still have. I don't even know if my wife voted for me at the time. I hope she did. But the truth is, it's the only private thing we have in our life. And sometimes those signs put neighbors against neighbors because they think, well, I don't want to make Mitch Reeves mad, so I'll put your sign here. Then you go knock on their door and they go, well, don't worry about it, I'll vote for you, or somebody else is there. So I didn't want them. I call them trash on a stick. I honestly do. I wish we'd go back to the 5. But they're litter. And people, unfortunately, count signs to think who's the best person to elect. They go down the road and, I put out 200 signs and I won. I put out 250 signs and I lost. Okay? So that was the big challenge. And walking for me then, I was a little heavier, is what helped me so much is I didn't figure it out after a while. You know, you remember when you're running for Atlantic Beach, you were running in the summer. It's hot. And I was really looking bad. And people would come in and cool off and get some water. No, I gotta get some water. Oh, you need to come in. I didn't realize they were saying, you look terrible. I thought they were just being nice. And so it is a tough job to do it. But what keeps you going is the passion that you have a vision and a mission that you want to give back to your city, win or lose. And that was, to me, the tough thing. And sign waving, people like it, but if you look at the studies of sign waving, standing on intersections and doing it, do you know how many sign waving people get you votes?
Every single one of them.
Absolutely.
Every single one.
The people holding the signs get you the votes. The real thing is this, the national statistics says sign waving is a way to let your supporters feel like they're helping you without having to give you money. They want to do something. There's more benefit out of that than there is the sign waving, but you still do it. But the signs to me was my biggest thing, and I still wish I could have run with no trash on the stick. And I don't mean that at the candidates' trash, I just mean signs.
Okay,
We were clear on that.
Mine's not a sign story.
But it doesn't have to be.
Okay. Although I kind of agree that I think maybe 5 signs would be preferable, because in a small town like Atlantic Beach, signs do make a difference. In larger jurisdictions, I think they get diluted by just the geography, but in Atlantic Beach, they do make a difference. They're expensive and it costs money to run a campaign. Somebody gives you $10 and you spend $15 on a sign. Anyway,
Not now,
I don't know what they cost now.
about 20-something.
So my story, and I'm trying to keep this light, is that, between the time that side of the room was running and we were running,
The
social
dividing
media
line.
became a huge animal in terms of like campaigning. And I want to tell you about the time that my conversation on Facebook Live was being live streamed to Atlantic Beach, Florida. So I was riding my bike with another person who was running for office, and it's so easy for you just to inadvertently, if you're looking at Atlantic Beach, Florida, to inadvertently hit that button that goes live. And so I had a conversation that was broadcast live to anyone who wanted to hear it. It was not fun. Luckily, I had really stayed away from talking about my opponent, but people wanted to really make a big deal out of that. And I'm going, okay guys, come on, we're all human, and let's just have a sense of humor about it. What I did is I was commenting on one of my opponents, Rick Harper, who I have a tremendous amount of respect for, who had thrown his name in to run for mayor because he thought I wasn't running. That was a common thing with me. He said, I never knew if I was gonna run again because it's so hard to run. And so he threw his name in, and then I got in the race, and I made a comment about how I thought he'd be a great city manager, not a mayor. And people want to make a big deal out of that, but to me it was a compliment, because those are the guys that actually run the city. So I just wanna say that Rick Harper, then and now, is my friend. He took no offense to it, but people wanted to make a huge deal about it. And so it just illustrates the power that social media has, because once that barn door is open, you just can't shut it.
I was
And I changed my settings, no more live streams
Good.
ever, so, boy, that was not a fun experience.
So I'm gonna take off on the social media piece that Mayor Glasser mentioned. Some people think I'm an older guy. I graduated from Fletcher High School in 1974. I guess that makes me old. And they're like, well, you didn't have social media in your day. Pardon? That's not what, see, I'm getting support here. But we didn't have social media in those days, right? Wrong. We had the Beaches leaders. That was our social media. And now, we don't have the Beaches leaders, so everybody pay attention. I think there's still an opportunity to revive the leader, but I'll tell you, one of the big takeaways I got from campaigning and street walking and knocking on doors is not fun, because sometimes people don't want you to knock on their door, okay? And so you don't know, it's not always a pleasant thing, but you gotta do it. But here's what I really learned. We have a very outside active population in Atlantic Beach. So a lot of the campaigning was literally on the street. And it's important to remember people's names, right? If you're a politician. I'm not that good at that, but I focused on remembering their dog's name. If you know somebody's dog's name, you have their vote, their extended family, their friends, everything. So dog's very important, and I could say a close second, maybe a first, but a close second is their children, if they're pushing a stroller or whatever. So you don't have to remember the voter's name, but you gotta remember the dog's name.
Hang on, we gotta go to Bill.
One last side story. My 75-year-old father lived in Jacksonville. He came and waved signs every single morning for the entire time of the campaign. He was there at 5:30 in the morning, and he was back again in the afternoon.
Wow.
After I won the office, I overheard somebody saying, "What do you mean she's the mayor? How come that guy named Shaughnessy didn't win?"
Try running as Chris Hoffman. Bill, what you got?
I'm gonna tell three quick campaign stories going back to 1980. I mentioned that I ran first for the commission on DARE. So I'm going door to door and knock on this guy's door, and I introduced myself. He says, "What are you?" I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "You're a Republican or a Democrat?" I said, It's not important because it's nonpartisan." He said, "Well, it's important to me. What are you?" And I said, "Republican." He said, "Well, I can't vote for you." I said, "Well, you got a problem." He said, "What's that?" I said, "My opponent's a Republican too." So I'm walking down Saratoga. Anybody know where Saratoga is? Okay, Saratoga. I'm walking down Saratoga and get down to the very end. These two good old boys sitting outside drinking beer. It was a Saturday afternoon. And I introduced myself and said, "I'm running for commission." One of them said, "I'll be damned." Said, "Ain't nobody ever been down here asking for votes. We're gonna vote for you, sonny boy." And so I often wondered whether they ever voted for me or not. And that's always perplexed me. But the other one is a bit more somber. When I was running for mayor, I had an opponent named Bob Harris, who was a former county commissioner before consolidation, who had moved to Atlantic Beach. And he was spending a lot of money and really active out there. And so I doubled my effort, bought a new pair of shoes, and started out walking. And I came up on this little African-American lady on the west side of Mayport Road. She had lived in a fairly modest little house, very charming lady. She was in her 80s. And I said, "Ma'am, is there anything I can do for you?" And she said, "Yes." She said, "I live here alone." And she said, "I would really like a street light outside my house because it's dark, and I would hope that you could get that done." So when I got back, got in that Monday and called the city manager and said, "Hey, will you get all of J.J., get them put a street light at this particular location, gave me the address, et cetera. Well, JEA is not the most proficient at responding to things, and it dragged out. And unfortunately, one night, some drunk broke into her house and beat her and robbed her. That always stayed with me about our responsibilities holding public office. You know, we think some things are not significant, they're little things, but that might have been deemed by some to be insignificant, but to me, it still sort of hangs there. I think about it from time to time. So, the responsibility of holding office. Anyway, that was the only somber thing you're gonna get out of me tonight. I'm still dying to tell a person's story. So,
Okay, we're gonna give you we're gonna do a little more open format here, but I do wanna say, Ken confirm everybody at the beach has at least 2 dogs. You knock on their door, you hear it. No dog, okay, well, I haven't knocked on your door, but yeah, there it is. And Mayor Brown, when I was first campaigning, she said she carries dog biscuits. When you go to knock on doors, you have a bag and you've got your palm cards and you've got your water and all that stuff, and she had dog biscuits. I'm like, that seems like a suicide attempt, because the dogs are coming for you. So knocking on doors, definitely a huge part of running in a local election. I think that is so true. The signs, though, I feel like the community that every single person has a sign at the beach is Neptune Beach. So Jacksonville Beach is definitely so big geographically and everything like that, but I feel like Neptune Beach, everyone has a sign, but Atlantic Beach is a close second. 5 signs. Nobody wants to do signs, we promise you. We are not excited about their expense.
And 5 signs in your yard now.
Yeah, they're not recyclable, except now we have someone who will repurpose them, and that is Atlantic Beach's own Scotty Cousin. So we're really, he gets all the signs that I pick up off the side of Jacksonville Beach that are illegally placed as well. So, did you have a question?
Is it correct that you only can have 1 sign on a property?
No, you can have,
On one property?
yes,
Yes.
only for a period of time though.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna, this will be a little more free form, but just to kind of give you some things to think about. When you look back on your term as mayor, I want to hear if you had an accomplishment that you're most proud of and something that you wish you could have done differently. So we'll start with Don.
Oh, wow, okay. Again, why did I run? When we moved to Seminole Beach, 1981, Kimberly, our oldest, she was 1 year old, and Karen, we moved there. And we joined in 1982. We joined an association, North Duval Beaches Association.
That's right.
North Duval Beaches Association was just neighbors, okay? It was like a little watch group, and every year we would have a wonderful oyster roast.
Yep.
And then 1984 comes along. We're Seminole Beach, and telephone rings. The president of the association said, "Hey, Don, have you heard about the high-rise development that's going on in 18th Street, between 18th and 19th on Beach Avenue?" I said, "Nothing about it. Gino, look into it." Pick up the phone. I was a former chairman of the zoning board of Neptune Beach. I thought I left all the zoning issues behind me. So I called a former teammate of mine, a high school teammate, and I knew the guy since Peter Pan kindergarten. And I called Tommy Coppage. His family owned Coppage Chevrolet here on Beach Avenue, on Beach Boulevard. Tommy was the chairman of the zoning board in Jacksonville. I said, "Tommy, what's going on with this development?" He said, "Well, Almond and Mitch Montgomery, they have filed paperwork to build 2 high-rise condominiums between 18 and 25 stories each on Beach Avenue between 18th and 19th. I said, "Well, what's the situation?" He said, "Well, we've already approved it in first reading. And it's coming up tomorrow for second reading, and it will be approved." I said, "Can we stop it?" He said, "Don," called me Don, he said, "You're not gonna be able to stop it. Once we approve it on the second reading, the city council's gonna approve it." So when is that? He said, 2 weeks. Go back to Gene, I said, "Gene, we've got 2 weeks to load this up, we gotta do what we can." So we started a telephone campaign. I said, "You get everybody in our association to call every city commissioner, city councilman, for 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the evening, at breakfast and dinner." Okay, so we harass the heck out of them. I go down to where the local is, the restaurant. Well, that's where Mayor Howell held court. And I go in to meet Mayor Howell. He's 30 years older than me, he's 20 years in office. And I politely go in humbly, and I go in, I sit down, and I said, what can I do for you? I said, Mayor Howell, do you understand what's going on in 18th Street, 19th Street in the city of Jackson? I said, I had no idea. I told him. I said, would you be interested in having the city commission write a letter supporting our opposition? He said, now, Mayor Howell was 6'4". When I shook his hand, my hand didn't even go around his palm. He was that big. So, I mean, I was kind of intimidated. So I'm sitting there meekly, and he's in his desk. And he rises. Now, he's a big guy, and he has a cigar in one hand, and he points his finger right at my nose. He said, let me tell you, young wolf, I will never raise a hand to help your neighbors and you to oppose this issue. I said, well, Mayor Howell, do you understand what 2 high-rise condominiums are going to do to a 5-way stop until all of that area will be redeveloped? He says, I don't care. And as he's saying that, he points to the door and he said, that meeting's over with. And he shows me the way. So, goodness gracious, that didn't go well. So, go back home. We're now facing 2 weeks, and all of a sudden, guess what happens? We're harassing them, and Karen and I, my wife and I, we chartered 2 city buses.
Wait a minute, Karen is never harassed.
No. I misspoke. No, we didn't harass. The other group harassed, but Karen and I chartered 2 city buses. Picked up our neighbors at the Sea Turtle, loaded them up, and we went down to the city of Jacksonville 3 days later. But we went down to the city of Jacksonville, but 3 days before we loaded those buses up, the phone rings. Who was President of the City Council, Joe Forshea. Joe says, Mr. Wolfson, said, you need to tell your people to stop harassing us. I said, okay. I said, all right. What do you want me to do? I said, tell them to stop calling. My wife is going to throw me out of the house if you don't stop this. So he got on the phone, called Gene, said, we got to stop this. But Joe also said, if you stop this, I can assure you that you will not be upset with the zoning vote. And sure enough, we loaded the chambers up downtown. We went down there, and it was unanimous that they stopped the zoning. Now, wait, that was not the end of it. Can I have 2 more minutes?
Yeah.
To me,
This is good.
Set me alarm.
to me, this is what Atlantic Beach is all about. So we get back the next morning, Gene and I get together, and we have like a little executive committee, neighbors, and we sit down and talk, and they're all ready. We're gonna have another oyster roast. We can't wait to celebrate. So wait a minute. Do you understand what developers' mindset is? They're gonna come back. And they're going to come back, and they're going to come back time and again until they get the votes that they can build those 2 high-rises. And so what do? So we're going to secede from Jacksonville. So we started. That was 1985 that we stopped the high-rises. 1987, we went through a process of annexation. Karen went door to door, getting petitions signed. Gil Stockton wrote the legislation. Sam Jacobson, the attorneys that got together, Elliott was involved in it, so we wrote the bill for Jacksonville, the bill for Atlantic Beach, and the bill for the state legislature. This was not the plan of Mayor Howell. This was the plan of citizens that took it to heart and wanted to control our destiny. 1987, we were annexed. Bill was mayor in 1988. He appoints me to the development board. Fast forward 2004. I'm sitting on the development board knowing full well that it only took a 3-2 vote to ever change an ordinance that limited the height. 2004. Knock again. Wyman Fletcher, Desmond Waters come. Say, Don, you know what's coming? I said, what are you talking about? I said, we got another high rise, a mid rise. I said, where? Anybody know where Johnson Island is? 8.5 acres under the overpass for the Atlantic Bowl.
Actually, there's only 1.25 acres of.
No, wait, I researched it. 3.5 acres are upland. 8.5 acres were wetland and upland.
Right.
So 3.5 acres could have been a marina and a mid-rise condominium that was gonna go there. Now, that opened Pandora's box, because I'm sitting there thinking, wait a minute, Once the developers see that it only takes a 3-2 vote, this is gonna change. The 3-2 vote on the commission changed it from conservation to residential commercial. That was done by a 3-2 commission vote of the city of Atlantic Beach. So 2004, that's when I decided to run for office. And the reason I ran for office was a couple reasons. One, district representation, but the most important thing was the height. And it wasn't the zoning and the ordinance that was gonna protect us, it was the referendum. We needed to put this in our charter. We did it, we gave the citizens the opportunity in 2006 to vote. Remember the percentage, 72.8% in favor of locking it down. Now, anytime a developer wants to come into Atlantic Beach, they've got to take it to the citizens, and the citizens will make the decision, not a 3-2 vote of the commission. Nice job.
Let me clean up his story a little
I didn't single you out. I didn't single
bit. Oh, wait a minute, you don't need to single me out. I actually voted to annex you radicals that came to us. And actually, part of the story he left out was that in this attempt to get Jacksonville not to do it, they came down to Atlantic Beach wanting us to pass a resolution in opposition to the high-rise up there. So I'm going to the commission meeting that night, and all of a sudden I see about 200 people around the city hall. And I'm thinking, what in the hell is going on here? I go inside and the clerk, Adelaide Tucker, says, well, you're the mayor pro tem, you're running the meeting, because apparently persons drove by here, saw the crowd, and decided he wanted to be mayor. So, I was smart enough to move that up at the front of the agenda. We took a vote with all of them breathing down our necks, and it passed favorably to support this thing. So I adjourned the meeting for 15 minutes, and do you know, one of them came up to me and raised hell because he didn't get a chance to talk. Everybody wants to talk, you know. I said, we did what you wanted us to do, but he still wanted to talk. So, but and leading into that, and I'll jump, Chris. One thing about you, you asked this, what is your greatest accomplishment when you were mayor? And I do want to share that, and that was that I encouraged my commission, and they agreed to it, to file suit against Jacksonville on double taxation.
Yeah, okay.
My biggest regret, and even Lyman Fletcher asked me to run for 2 more years, but I didn't, because I was like everybody. You know, I'd been a commissioner for 7 years, and I was a mayor for 5, and I'd been doing it long enough. It was time to leave. But my biggest regret was that I didn't stay, because I think the resolution, and it's still unresolved, I think that the resolution really needed to end up in the courts and be finalized there. That's where I thought that, you know, because we can make a really good case, but nobody down there, no majority city council is going to vote to lower our taxes at the expense of the other people in the consolidated city of Jacksonville. Ain't going to happen. So.
Addendum. He also was smart enough to hire, as the attorney,
Yeah, he was good.
who was handling all of this,
John
a man named John DeVault,
Yes.
who at the time was the president of the Jacksonville Bar Association. He was a fantastic lawyer.
Yes, he was.
And I think that it's to your credit that you hired him, and it's to his credit that we got as far as we did.
Always surround
I
yourself with
need to
people
do
smarter
a
than
follow
you
on
are.
this, if I may, is, notice he's at the other end of this spectrum and I'm all the way over here. We are going to revisit the interlocal agreement very soon. We are actually in a study right now with a third-party consultant. And I have learned so much from you, Bill, over the last number of years about what was, what is, and what could be. And so I don't know whether we'll end up in court at some point, but right now we have a favorable inclination from our partners at the City of Jacksonville. And we will, this year, if not write a revision, we will certainly have all the results of our study, and by next year, in next fiscal year, we will have a new interlocal agreement. The question is, do we need attorneys involved at that point?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Probably.
All right, let's get back on track with Carolyn. Do you have a greatest accomplishment or something you wish you could have done differently?
kind of the theme that coming along is just that push for development. And I just really felt like the control of our city was just too much in the hands of the developer side. And so I think my biggest accomplishment is changing over that control behind the scenes. And we have progressed. I mean, look at the homes in Atlantic Beach. It's just amazing. But instead of just big ugly boxes, they're nice homes. People, like I said, you go up to their front door and you see how much they care about their homes and everything. So I think in the end, we've moved in a good direction.
Yeah, I have a couple, I have three quick ones, and I'll go that I quickly comes to my mind that I'm proud that took place was, one is, we were able to, after 10 or 15 years debating to either rebuild the police department, tear it down, we were actually able to do the police department in a reconstruction, not have to rent other buildings. We actually moved to other city buildings, divided people up. So we did get a new, up-to-date police department. So I'm real proud of that, that we were able to do that. The other thing I'm proud of, speaking of the police department, is I had the opportunity during my term to help, as you well know, the mayor, all of our cities are weak mayor cities. The city manager runs everything. So, but you have an input, and it's kind of strange because the police chief, the city manager hires the police chief, but he comes to you for all of you to prove. So at 5 of you don't say no, and then drive around the city if they get the job. But it was interesting that we had the opportunity the timing was just right. Even though I got criticized a little bit, I waited 3 months, and the timing was right to bring in Michelle Cook. She retired from JSO. We got two people in one for that job. People don't realize this. 2 people. We got a chief of police, and we got someone that's certified in emergency management. We didn't have those people. So we got 2 of those. So I'm real proud of that. I am proud of that. Believe it or not, I'm actually proud of bringing in Joe Garrity as our city manager. I think Joe understood. I think he was a good department. He knew how to run the departments. He didn't let them run crazy. He was a good manager. And I think Joe, that was another accomplishment. The one I really think that I kind of got criticism on, but I did, is my term was up in 2017. And I believe in early 2017, I brought up a motion to the commission to vote that we move our elections to get in line with the city of Jacksonville. So did a lot of research on that. And so I didn't want to, when I found out the real results in the state for that was you could not take a year away from anybody. So to get into that cycle, somebody lost a year or something. But there was a way to do it, is that the next cycle, everybody got an extra year. So if you were a mayor that had 2 years, you actually got 3. You got served 3 years. That's why some mayors got 3 years. You go, how did you get a third term? That's what it was. And commissioners got 5 years instead of 4. But there's a reason for doing that, because I figured it out. It doesn't sound like a lot of money, but the taxpayers pay a lot. We pay a lot of taxes, property taxes and everything. And I found a way that we could save 25,000, anywhere from 25 to 30,000 kept going up, because we had to pay for every one of our elections. If we just moved and skipped a year, they were free. So that went away. You add that up over 10 or 20 years, that's a lot of money for something else. So I'm happy with that. And I believe, basically, I'm very happy with those 3. Did I make mistakes sometime? Absolutely, every one of us sat up here. But I tell you, when you sat on that dais, many times, your good officials, every one of them, they vote many of them have voted for things that they don't even like. They're against it. Some of them vote against things that they're for, but you're voting for the citizens. You're not voting for yourself. It's not you, it's everybody else. So sometimes you do that. And then sometimes you vote for things that you don't have any power over, that, for instance, if a big corporation wants to come in and develop a business, and you know in the long run it could have cost the city millions and millions of dollars in a lawsuit, you kind of let it, if they can do it, you can. And I think everybody knows which one I'm talking about. And I get it, I understand it, and I respect it. But what's funny today is I see more people and elected officials that campaigned against it buying there every day. So now it's different. So it's just, it's different then, But I'm just saying that sometimes you make decisions and people don't understand, why did you vote for that? Why did you go with that, And those are the hard things sitting on the dais. And the other thing, I remember Bill Gulliver saying this, not to get in trouble with you, Bill, downtown, but when he was president of the council, I got you. Woods and all that, so put your little watch away. Neighbor and friend. But Bill said this to me one time before. He said, the difference in Atlantic Beach is you're sitting on that dais and everybody out there is your neighbor, you know them, you belong to clubs with them. Everybody that speaks, you know them all. Downtown, those people come, we don't know half of them, but it's tough sitting up there making tough decisions. But hopefully you make good ones, and some you don't make bad. So that would be the week's up.
My turn. So, first of all, you guys have done some amazing things for Atlantic Beach. I give all of my predecessors credit for that. And I agree with everything Mitch just said about what he did during his term in office. I am very proud of many of the quality of life initiatives that I started, whether they were infrastructure issues, whether it's like a lifeguard station, money for community centers, the road diet that's going to happen on Mayport Road. There are a number of things that have happened since I left office, or the environment, placing a high priority on the environment and trees, and really following the lead of really talented people in Atlantic Beach. And then I've worked really strongly with the faith community and with the kids. I mean, some of you might remember I drove around and gave letters to all the seniors that graduated during COVID because they missed their senior years. I mean, I ceremonied the shit out of that. I mean, that is our role. Our role is largely ceremonial, and we credit staff with making a lot of the other priorities come into being. But, I took history seriously with Mayor Shaughnessy, with the Dutton Island Five, with naming Gulliford Hall over at Adele Grange. I mean,
That was a risk.
Yeah, well, anyway, I really.
Why does somebody keep defacing that sign,
Yeah, well,
by the way?
I really took the people part of that job super seriously. I didn't name anything after a dog, but anyway. But I'm just gonna say, if I had to single out something, because I moved to Atlantic Beach because I like the small town look and feel of it. If there's anything that has sort of lasted since I left, it was to address the surface lot coverage. We've all heard about McMansions, and yes, the houses are beautiful, but many of them are boxy. They're humongous.
Yes.
It's up to the commission to set sort of guardrails against this out-of-scale development. I mean, we have to be creative, and so I was told not to. I think you told me, Carolyn, not to do it because it would be very risky to do it. She said, do it in your second term, but we reduced the impervious rate. And yes, I love private property rights, but come on, we live in a community where we need trees, we need backyards, and we want to preserve our city for our kids and our grandkids. So that's something that I did that I wish I'd gone further, quite honestly, but I went as far as I felt like I could. So I'm proud of that.
Hang on a second,
You skipped.
No, they're
we're
gonna
coming back to you, yeah,
Okay.
don't worry, you
You
guys
went right to Carolyn.
you're gonna
So
go.
I'll be kind of brief. Since I'm still a work in progress, telling you what my most important thing I've accomplished hasn't necessarily happened yet.
Winning
I hope.
re-election.
Yeah. But I will say this, I believe, maybe it's part of the Hippocratic oath, do no harm. As a mayor, one of the things I challenged myself right from the beginning is do no harm. Our city was great when I took over as mayor. I hope it stays great and is great when I leave as mayor, so do no harm. But first thing I'll just tell you is the children of Atlantic Beach are incredible. Hats off to my wife Leah for engaging Atlantic Beach Elementary. We spend time with them every month, and I've carried on the tradition that Mayor Glasser started of having a mayor for the day from Atlantic Beach Elementary once a year. Extraordinary event, but it doesn't stop with that one event. We've had children in the chambers from baseball to Girl Scouts to everything you can imagine. It is so refreshing to be in a small town where you can do that and have that connectivity with the community. So the children, I think, are one of my greatest, not necessarily accomplishments, but engagements. And then, as we move forward, there's some things going on that we'll continue to work on, like the 5-way stop. We have the funding, and we are in the middle of doing the preliminary design phase of a peanut, not a roundabout, it's a peanut, so it's two circles. And then we hope to get the complete funding from the TPO, the Transportation Planning Organization of Northeast Florida, for actual installation of that. And then finally, what's very important to me as a mayor is doing that project with no eminent domain. And if we do need a sliver of a piece of property, we need to work that out with the property owner, not eminent domain. So that could be a big enhancement for the community with no additional costs out of our general fund. So I'm excited about that. Back to you, Mayor.
We're gonna end at the beginning here. Go ahead, if you guys have anything else to add.
Bill's first.
I'm gonna start with, I'm sorry.
Ladies first.
Go ahead.
Didn't you already speak about that?
No.
Oh.
Go ahead.
How about it?
Go ahead. No,
How
no,
about
no,
it?
Suzanne, I want to tell something.
Chris,
Bill wants
Is this our closing?
We're gonna let them have their comments, and then anybody has any final comments.
So, I was persuaded the first time to run for the commission by Mayor Golliford and Lyman Fletcher, who was a subsequent mayor right after Mayor Golliford, and Desmond Waters. They were known as the Green Team. And they were big into, as was I, parkland purchase. So during the time that I was on the commission and mayor, we purchased Tide Views Park, Dutton Island. My name's on the deed, I had to sign it. And there was another purchase that was made, not by Atlantic Beach, but by John Delaney. There's a 100-acre parcel that is across from Dutton Island. When we bought Dutton Island, it was called a preserve. And this 100-acre parcel was owned by Centex Homes, and it had 108 building lots facing Dutton Island with the backyards. So from a preserve, you were gonna be looking at little tykes and swing sets. So I got a call from Mayor Fletcher, who said, why don't you see if you can get them to increase the size of the buffer? There's a buffer, what do you call it, stormwater buffer between the shore and where your property, 25-foot buffer. He said, see if you can get 50. So I looked into it, and not only could I not get 25 or 50, they hadn't really completed the purchase yet. So I lobbied like crazy. I lobbied everybody in Jacksonville, since it was in technically Jacksonville. And finally, after months of doing this, I got a call from Mayor Delaney's office downtown, and he said, would you like to come on a boat ride with me and my staff? We're just gonna cruise the intercoastal and look at the properties there. And of course I said, sure. Well, while we're at Dutton Island, Susie Wiles, who was his chief of staff, came up to me and I said, Susie, you know that 100 acres that I've been lobbying to save? I said, it goes from, and we were standing up and I said, it goes from over there all the way right here to the road. And she went, oh, expletive. So, one thing led to another, but in the end, Mayor Delaney purchased that 100-acre property as the first purchase of the Preservation Act that he, and the point is that that was the largest single parcel left in it on this island.
Yes.
And he put it into preservation. So land, Desmond Waters used to say, the reason I think we should buy all the land we can is because they're just not making any more of it. And I thought that was a good rationale.
Yeah.
The second thing that I felt great satisfaction about was it was a stormwater plan paid for, ready to go into the ground, and someone on the tree board who was a landscape architect called me and said, I just reviewed the plans for this stormwater project. It's going to remove 800 trees out of the city, and it's going to take Johansson Park. Johansson Park is in Selma between the, forget the name of the road, but anyway, it's a sizable park with a lot of trees in it. That was going to become a retention pond, the whole thing. So I said, uh-oh, we can't have this. And basically we're able to, it was a tough assignment. We had already paid for this plan that was gonna go into effect. And the problem was that when something called the request for proposals went out, it said that the entire project had to be within the city limits. And at the time, we didn't touch the intercoastal, which is where we drain to. So the plan was to put giant pipes, 10 and 12 feet long, under the roads, and the pipes would store the water until it evaporated from a bad storm. Well, that was what was causing the problem. So we were able to hire a different engineering firm who understood the assignment and was able to come up with a plan that did not involve expensive pumps. It was gravity fed, and it worked for many, many years. The engineers told us that the key to the project was going to be the pervious-impervious surface ratio. He said, we've got the ratio set with your consent at 35%. As long as you do not change, as conditions do not change, this stormwater project will work forever. And it did. It worked very well for a while. Somehow, in the future, I'm not even sure who did it, but a future commission changed the percentage from 35 to 50%. And then the old city began to have problems again. This is how bad this is how bad it was. People who lived in the old city before we had the stormwater plan were actually having cement trucks come in and raise the level of their floors so they wouldn't flood. It was really bad.
Yes.
So that was a thing that I was very happy to be rid of. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right. Bill?
You know, driven by media and probably a lot by social media these days, that you hear references to elected officials as bums, crumb bums, whatever, corrupt, whatever, you know, there are a multitude of names given to them, and yet,
Bitches.
you know, yet there's, the good experience in my life has been on both the Jacksonville City Council and the Atlantic Beach Commission. I've served with people who are honorable and who were there for the right reasons. Sure, there were people there that were looking for self-fulfillment, etc. And I hearken back to one gentleman who was on the Atlantic Beach City Commission with me, who I have always held in high esteem. His name was John Weldon Sr. John Weldon was an attorney. He was general counsel of the CSX Railroad, and I had the good fortune of serving with him while I was a mayor. And we got into a heck of a debate about the city hall, because all of you remember the old city hall, and that's where we were functioning. The city government resided there, and it was obviously we were growing out of space, and there were two schools of thought. We either expand that building or we go build something new. And it was, there were two people, John and Glenn Edwards, were very much opposed to moving, and I wanted to move, and there was one swing vote. So the debate that night went on for 2 hours. And finally, on a 3-2 vote, we voted to move the city hall. And if you debated with John Weldon, you better have your game on, because he was a hell of a debater, and mine like a steel trap. So we fast forward to the first meeting in the new city hall, and there was still the same commission. Right before the meeting, he came up to me behind and he said, "I just want to tell you that this was the right thing to do." And I thought, you know, or I said to him, I said, "John, you're every bit the honorable man that I've always thought you were." And it hung with me. We make decisions, and sometimes they're right, and sometimes you take a wrong position, etc. But you do it for the right reasons by and large. And I think people like him set a standard, set a goal for what we want. And unfortunately, we're not getting the people to run these days because of all of the trauma, all of the backbiting, all the name calling. We're not seeing the people turn out like they used to run for office and hold office for the right reasons, and I think it's very regrettable. I worry much about it, and I just hope you'll encourage people to run for office, especially local government. I think that's where you
And then give them a lot of support.
yeah,
because
give them
they need it.
support, you know, and I think it's important. It's important to our well-being as communities. So, even though I voted against Wilson and his renegades moving into it, being annexed to it and into Atlantic Beach.
But he didn't tell you that I stood
It's a 3-2 vote.
wait a minute, I stood on that intercoastal waterway, even though he did that, waving my.
I did.
With Sandsburg.
I voted for the annex, although I do remember Billy Howell, who also voted for the annex, saying, "You people, you think that we're gonna have those bulldozers and loaders and equipment up there paving your streets right after this vote? You ain't got another thought coming." So,
That's my
yeah,
case.
you remember that, so anyway.
All right, I'm gonna give you guys a second to think about any final words, anything you wanted to share that didn't come up. But while you're thinking about that, and this will be lightning round, because I know these seats are not comfortable, but we're gonna ask you also if we'll go into the exhibit and take a group photo after that, and then you guys can mix and mingle with the mayors and everything. But I did want to say really quickly, thank you to our board members who are here. We have Margie and Doris, and our past board president, Katie. And Doris is actually receiving an honor tonight as Art Educator of the Year from I also want to recognize that interim city manager from Atlantic Beach, Kevin Hogenkamp, is here. He got the comfy chair. That's how you know he's smart. And then last night we announced our Beach Legends. If you know, Beach Legends is our big annual gala. Last year, one of our honorees was Bill Gulliford, and this year, one of our honorees is Karen Wolfson. So we were really but as always, we thank you so much for coming out to our events, for supporting the museum. If your membership is lapsed, or if you're not a member yet, we can help you with that. But we really appreciate you guys coming and spending your morning with us. Oh, do you want to grab it? We did pull out an artifact. One of them. So this is what we do, preserve and share the distinct history and culture of the beaches area. So we're going to start with Carolyn. Sorry, put you on the spot. Anything that you wanted to share that we haven't gotten to yet?
Oh, no.
Okay. Mitch?
They
I'll
already
just close real quickly. I want to share two, I think they were funny experiences that can happen to you as an elected official. I got invited every year, the senior citizens, as Jacksonville has a senior citizens fishing tournament, huge. They bust them all in. I mean, hundreds of them at Hannah Park. And Mayor Curry invited me to come, and I went, okay, I'll come. And so I got there, and he said, sit up here on the stage, and he said, sit here next to me. So I sat next to him. I don't know what I was doing on stage, and he goes, and then in the middle of things, he said, now you are gonna stand up and talk about Atlantic Beach and everything. I said, Mayor, I don't know if you realize this, but we're in Jacksonville. All you have is the zip code. You know? So we laughed. But the other one that I thought is, during my term, for some reason, I must have been jinxed, because I had 3 major, could have been disasters. We were fortunate with 2 of them. We had a major flood the Sunday night before I took office on Monday. First one in 100 years, and thank God other commissioners are solving that. It's been solved. But we had that, and then we had 2 hurricanes, and both of them could have been very, very major to our community. And so during the day, I got a call from Governor Scott, and it was a voice message. Said, Mayor Reeves, this is Governor Scott. I just want to call. Is there anything you need? Let me know. Give me a call and everything. Well, I didn't get a chance to call back until 1:30 in the morning. I was going to leave a voice message. I called the number. Mayor Reeves, I'm glad you returned my call. I went, Governor? Yeah. I apologize. Did I wake you? No, I wasn't asleep, but I asked you to call. I mean, that's the type of people that care. So both of those were very shocking to me, to be able to see that. And the last thing I do want to end is, I want to thank everybody for here, encouraging people to get involved. And this is a saying I'm going to read to make sure I get it right, but I always believe in this. And go back and think about it. Bill was right. People should run for office. Get involved. Join a committee. And I try to remember this all the time, and I hope you go back and remember this. The biggest concern for any city should be when their most passionate residents become silent. Don't become silent. Don't become silent. And thank you for having us all here today. I appreciate it from my heart.
We're gonna keep going down the line. Mayor
Okay,
Glasser?
I want to echo, what we have in terms of like emergency, support, having gone through, I think, 3 hurricanes, and Governor Scott at the time was really quite awesome. You know, it's amazing how we do come together when we need to. Couple things, you mentioned it briefly. I was privileged to serve with the 3 women mayors. And just as a coincidence, I was also the mayor when we had all women on our commission. I mean, I thought it was newsworthy at the time, but you know, it was what it was, so it was great. I strongly support that review of the interlocal agreement, because as everything costs more money, you know, we need to make sure that we're getting our share of our taxes back from Jacksonville, and I say sue the bastards. I just want to say Atlantic Beach is really a special place to live. It's a wonderful place. I think, you know, we talk about 3 beach cities, 1 community, but I do think each one is uniquely different. And I hope we can retain what is so special about Atlantic Beach, because it is a wonderful place to live. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you. Mayor Ford?
First of all, thank you to Mayor Hoffman for hosting this. I think incredible. I'm delighted that there are more of you than us. But this is a celebration of Atlantic Beach on the 100 years, but I think it's noteworthy that we are one beach community, and my partnership with Mayor Hoffman and Mayor Byland of Neptune Beach are so critical. And it's not, and I don't remember a recent past problem between the beaches, but the point is that the beaches have not always been cohesive. We are today. I think this is so important. But there's another piece of it that we often don't consider, and that's our 4th mayor. And that's the commander of Naval Station Mayport, Commander Bull, Captain Bull, and the previous commander, or Captain Bender, was such a good partner. And we have celebrated and told Commander Bull, understand you're the 4th mayor. And So if you hear more about the base, that's intentional. It is so important. They're great partners. So,
All right, back to the beginning.
I just want to say about Mayor Ford.
Don't mind me, I'm just a potted plant.
I just wanted to say about Mayor Ford.
I love you, Suzanne.
I love you too. He led the charge on keeping the school board from closing our elementary school.
Oh, yeah.
That was a huge
well,
thing.
thank you. That was all of us led the charge. Thank you.
Yeah, you led it. It was a lot of people, but there were people leading it, and it was well done. Okay, now it's your turn.
Thank you very much.
Did you forget what you're gonna say?
No, I don't have anything else to say, although I will say that Georgette Dumont, who I'm sure many of you know, is involved in trying to resurrect, in essence, resurrect the beach's leader. It'll be under different names to try to buy the assets, and she was setting it up originally as a nonprofit. We desperately need a community paper. I mean, so hopefully that will come. But when you hear about it, if you can give some support to it, please do. It's important for our community. It's sad it's dropped to the level that it is right now. So.
All right, Don?
I think it's
Well,
Last
I had
word.
a chance to close, and I must tell you how much I appreciate all of you being here. It means a lot to us. You've borne a lot of these issues. If Atlantic Beach didn't mean something to you, you wouldn't have been here. But Atlantic Beach has become what it is because a lot of people made it that way.
very well
We
said.
were very blessed to be able to sit on that dais and help. But it's our citizens that guided us. And for all intents and purposes, I think the commissioners, the mayor commissioners, I mean, one thing we had, most of us, if not all of us, was a passion for our community. And we lived on an island. Chris, thank you for pulling this together so much. It's appreciated. Working with Mayor Ford and the other two mayors, Mayor Hoffman and Mayor Brown. I mean, we came together and we rallied to save Atlantic Beach Elementary, excuse me. But the takeaway for me is I wouldn't trade any of my experiences for anything because of how much we got from it. And we are truly blessed. I think we've done a lot to help our community. I know there will be future leaders that will do so. And I can't thank you enough for all of you that you have done. Staff, administration, all the staff members, the police department, I mean, they are incredible. And all of it comes together to make what? One of the greatest communities in Northeast Florida, if not all of Florida.
I'd like you to give, each of you, give yourselves a hand for coming to listen to
Perfect ending. Thank you all for your participation and your candor. I'm gonna have you guys stand up and go ahead into the exhibit because we want to get a couple group photos before everyone tries to